Hello everybody, and welcome once again to the Church of the Most High. This is Nickelbag speaking on this Thursday, February 12th, 2026. And we are going to get into our scripture reading as we normally do. Broadcasting to you live, did I say that? Broadcasting to you live on two platforms right now, Rumble and Facebook. More to come in the future, hopefully, God willing. But right now, we are going to get into our first reading. Our first reading is always from the book of Proverbs. There are 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs, 31 days in a typical month, apart from this month of February. So a chapter a day, and at the end of the month, you are much wiser and more informed as to the ways of God and the way He thinks and the best way for us to proceed in our daily activities to receive His blessings and avoid obstacles, to put it lightly. So that said, let us get into this. We read from the Authorized King James Version of the Bible. That's the Old English 1611 version. If you have trouble understanding that, as a lot of us do at first, get a New English version, one of the modern translations, and just compare it line to line as we read here or on your own. Sooner or later, the Old English will click, and you'll understand that it's a better translation than even the modern ones. That said, let's get into this. In the name of Jehovah Allah, most gracious, most merciful. The book of the Proverbs of the Kings of Israel, chapter 12. Whoso loveth instruction loveth knowledge, but he that hateth reproof is brutish. A good man obtaineth favor of Jehovah Allah, but a man of wicked devices will he condemn. A man shall not be established by wickedness, but the root of the righteous shall not be moved. A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness in his bones. The thoughts of the righteous are right, but the counsels of the wicked are deceit. The words of the wicked are to lie in wait for blood, but the mouth of the upright shall deliver them. The wicked are overthrown and are not, but the house of the righteous shall stand. A man shall be commended according to his wisdom, but he that is of a perverse heart shall be despised. He that is despised and hath a servant is better than he that honoureth himself and lacketh bread. A righteous man regardeth the life of his beast, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. He that tilleth his land shall be satisfied with bread, but he that followeth vain persons is void of understanding. The wicked desireth the net of evil men, but the root of the righteous yieldeth fruit. The wicked is snared by the transgression of his lips, but the just shall come out of trouble. A man shall be satisfied with good by the fruit of his mouth, and the recompense of a man's hands shall be rendered unto him. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he that hearkeneth unto counsel is wise. A fool's wrath is presently known, but a prudent man covereth shame. He that speaketh truth showeth forth righteousness, but a false witness, deceit. There is that speaketh like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is health. The lip of truth shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. Deceit is in the heart of them that imagine evil, but to the counselors of peace is joy. There shall no evil happen to the just, but the wicked shall be filled with mischief. Lying lips are abomination to Jehovah Allah, but they that deal truly are his delight. The prudent man concealeth knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaimeth foolishness. The hand of the diligent shall bear rule, but the slothful shall be under tribute. Heaviness in the heart of man maketh it stoop, but a good word maketh it glad. The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth them. The slothful man roasteth not that which he took in hunting, but the substance of a diligent man is precious. In the way of righteousness is life, and in the pathway thereof there is no death. And once again, that was the book of Proverbs, chapter 12. Most of that stuff was pretty self-explanatory. I'm not really feeling the need to elaborate on anything there. I'm really not. No, we're just going to go with that. I mean, okay, so we'll hit 12, verse 12. The wicked desireth the net of evil men, but the root of the righteous yieldeth fruit. They're talking about like fishing nets and nets used in hunting. But in the modern day, we've heard of the dark web and the dark internet. You probably want to stay away from that. There's a lot of nasty shit on there. Yeah, you might be able to get some things that aren't so nasty at a discount price, but to be tangled in with all the bullshit there, like namely the fucking pedophiles and the kiddie porn, you just want to stay away from that. And I know most of the people looking at the dark web aren't really there looking for kiddie porn, but unfortunately, that's what you're going to get tangled up in. So I advise you to just use one of the fucking major internet shopping sites and stay off of that shit. Um, and anything else, nothing else really sticks out. Um, yeah, no, nothing else really sticks out. But basically, don't be lazy. You know what I mean? Everybody has their moments of sluggishness and lethargy. But at the end of the day, if you don't work, you're not gonna eat. Like you're not gonna be satisfied. You might be able to get assistance some here, some there. But if you're actually capable of working and you're not doing it for one reason or another, you're going to miss out on all those things that everybody else is enjoying. So that being said, let's get into the next one. Our next reading is from the book of Psalms. Um, I want to put in, I guess I got to acknowledge or reiterate the fact that I haven't set this in motion myself. The chronological progression of the readings here from Psalms 5 yesterday to Psalm 6 today, along with the Proverbs, I didn't set any of that in motion. Now, the idea of a proverb a day wasn't anything new that I invented or anything that the Lord gave me in any kind of mystical way. That was already done by millions of people worldwide because it works. But the Lord gave me the rest of the scripture readings and started me off in random places, um, seemingly random to me, but for him there was no randomness about it, and it is amazing in the fact that it reflects not only the other passages that we read a lot of times, but also what's going on in the real world around us in reality out there. Just this past weekend, we got up to the readings from the Ecclesiasticus talking about how to throw a proper party. And if you're at a party, how to behave as a proper guest so that people want to invite you back. And of course, we know that the Super Bowl was on Sunday, and we basically got ahead of time instructions on how to behave and what to do. And there was a little bit more deeper of a message in there too. One of those days where the Quran reflected the reading in I believe it was the Psalms, or maybe it was the Proverbs, but it talked about the timeless nature of God. It was actually the proverb that we read, where wisdom was talking about how before everything was even formed, she was with the sons of men. And a lot of people read that passage and wonder, how is that even possible? How could wisdom be with people when people weren't even invented yet? But in fact, they were invented and they were always with God. That's what our eternal soul is. It's eternal, from everlasting to everlasting. And the Quran reiterated that. The very first line we read that day was there ever a time where man was a thing unremembered? And the answer to that question is no. And you can confirm it there in the book of Proverbs. So that all said, this isn't anything that I've put in play. Mama didn't raise no fool necessarily, but that doesn't mean I don't act like one from time to time. But I'm certainly not a fucking genius. I didn't plan this myself years in advance to fall on the day of, and it just wasn't me. I ain't that intelligent. Um, but that said, all praise goes to Jehovah Allah and through Jesus' name. Hallelujah. So the book of Psalms. Psalm number 6. In the name of Jehovah Allah, most gracious, most merciful, the book of Psalms, Psalm 6. To the chief musician on Neganoth upon Sheminith, a psalm of David. O Yahweh, rebuke me not in thine anger, neither chasten me in thy hot displeasure. Have mercy upon me, O Yahweh, for I am weak. O Lord, heal me, for my bones are vexed. My soul is also sore vexed. But thou, O Yahweh, how long? Return, O Lord, deliver my soul. O save me for thy mercy's sake. For in death there is no remembrance of thee. In the grave who shall give thee thanks? I am weary with my groaning. All the night make I my bed to swim. I water my couch with my tears. My eye is consumed because of grief. It waxeth old because of all mine enemies. Depart from me, all ye workers of iniquity, for Jehovah Allah hath heard the voice of my weeping. Allah Yahweh hath heard my supplication. Jehovah will receive my prayer. Let all mine enemies be ashamed and sore vexed. Let them return and be ashamed suddenly. Yeah, David had a lot of people gunning against him, that's for sure. And you can't help the guy but pray for their removal from his life one way or another. Um, Jesus taught us to pray for our enemies. I don't think Jesus meant pray for our enemies to die, but it's a human thing. We can't help but want these people who trouble us and torment us to go away and even get a taste of their own medicine. The Lord will deal with them soon enough in the way He sees best fit. The idea being that they have a change of heart, that they do repent, that they do stop tormenting people and come to understand His love and share that love with others. But unfortunately, it's not always possible. So that's why we let the Lord deal with it. Um, but yeah, pretty powerful prayer. Let's move along to the Quran. Our reading from the Quran is Surah number 80 today. I got to double check these things. We read from the new translation by MAS Abdul Halim. It's from Oxford Press. I believe that it is the most correct version in English that one could own. It is written in paragraph form. If you've ever seen a version of the Quran in modern English, it's in column format because it's a very poetical writing, though it's much more than a poem. Uh, and in the Arabic tongue, when they recite it, it's sung. It's very beautiful to hear recited, especially when someone has a nice voice to go with it. But when you try to translate that to English, the subject becomes chopped up and butchered in the lines. It doesn't rhyme anymore. You obviously can't sing it right after that. And it's almost unbearable in a way to try to understand when it's written in columns, line by line. But the gentleman, MAS Abdul Halim, took the time to write it in paragraph form so that everybody can understand it in English and get the message. And that is the most important part. Singing songs in a language you don't understand does you no good at all whatsoever. So let's get to it. In the name of Jehovah Allah, most gracious, most merciful. The Quran, Surah number 80. Abasa. He frowned. He frowned and turned away when the blind man came to him. For all you know, he might have grown in spirit or taken note of something useful to him. For the self-satisfied one, you go out of your way. though it is not your responsibility if he does not attain purity. But from the one who has come to you full of eagerness and all you are distracted? Never again. This is a reminder, inscribed in honored scrolls, exalted, pure by the hands of noble and virtuous scribes. Whoever wishes will remember it. Perish such a man! How ungrateful he is! From what thing does Allah create him? He creates him from a droplet. He proportions him. He makes the way easy for him. Then he causes him to die and be buried. When he wills, he will raise him up again. Yet he does not fulfill God's commands. Let man consider the food he eats. We pour down abundant water and cause the soil to split open. We make grain grow and vines, fresh vegetation, olive trees, date palms, luscious gardens, fruits and fodder, all for you and your livestock to enjoy. When the deafening blast comes, the day man will flee from his own brother, his mother, his father, his wife, his children. Each of them will be absorbed in concerns of their own on that day. On that day, some faces will be beaming, laughing, and rejoicing, but some faces will be dust-stained and covered in darkness. Those are the disbelievers who exceed all bounds. And once again, that was the Quran, Surah number 80, Abasa, he frowned. It's about, the beginning part of that is in reference to somebody coming to Muhammad once upon a time as the Quran was being written and dictated and the movement was just getting started. And Muhammad was a little bit busy, a little bit rushed, and he kind of brushed one of these guys aside who was really eager to help. And God didn't like that, and he put Muhammad in his place. But that said, the next part of it, the deafening blast comes. How loud do you think it's going to be when the volcano underneath Yellowstone erupts? I bet it's going to be pretty fucking loud. And a lot of people are going to be covered in dust. In fact, I guess a more correct term would be volcanic ash. They will be the ones, the disbelievers, who don't believe what I'm trying to tell you right now. This is your warning. This is a very plain warning right now. The Yellowstone volcano, there's a super volcano underneath Yellowstone National Park, surmounting day by day, year by year, raising the ground above sea level inches. The pressure underneath there is immense, and it is going to pop. The last report I heard, there was about 600 earthquakes in that area last year alone. And they're going to keep getting worse and worse. And that thing will pop, and it will destroy probably the entire West Coast, a good 20% of the country, if not more. And that's just in the initial blast. The subsequent fallout and volcanic ash and everything else will set this place in turmoil. It will be panic in the streets for anybody that's left alive. I suggest you leave the country now if you can. I'm making plans to, trust me. I'm not just sitting here talking this shit because I'm some kind of fucking asshole, some kind of jackass trying to get attention. I'm planning on leaving the country as soon as I can get the money up. I suggest you do too, because it won't be pretty. The only way to stop it is to reinstate capital punishment for the child molesters. Jehovah Allah is the only one with the power to prevent that. There is no science, there is no technology, there is no fucking snowballs chance in hell prayer that's going to stop that thing without action on our part. And that action requires us to protect our children. Something we've failed to do for quite a long time now, considering the alarming rate of pedophilia and child molestation just going around unchecked. These people damage a child for life, screw them up in ways that most people with a stable mind state can't even begin to comprehend. And they do 2 years in the county jail. They get fed decent food, 3 square meals, warmth, pillows, beds, They play card games on the block and laugh and smile and joke around with each other. They receive life-saving medicines and food and clothing that the child they molested then pays for when they get their first job and have taxes taken out of their paycheck. The fuck are you people thinking? That's the only way. Put them to death. Or that thing will fucking blow. Mark my words. And unfortunately, folks, if you're not a part of that, you're probably better off just getting the fuck out of the country. Because it's really hard to imagine the way things are, the politicians coming together and making that shit happen. But that's the only fucking way we have. So now that that's out of the way, we're going to go to our fourth reading. Our fourth reading is from the book of Ecclesiasticus. It's considered an apocryphal book. You can find it in some authorized King James versions of the Bible. The Anglican version of the Bible, the Episcopalians have it right in there, typically still. But most of the other denominational Protestant and Lutheran type denominations that use a King James Bible do not have this book in their standard. You have to go and get it separately. The Catholic versions of the Bible, regardless of the translation, they all have this book in there, and it's usually titled Ben Sirach or Ben Sirach, or also Wisdom of Sirach. Ben is not the gentleman's first name. Ben is the Hebrew word meaning son. It's the son of Sirach. His first name, as reported in the title, is Joshua. Joshua, Yeshua, or as we translate it, Jesus. But it's not the same Jesus from the New Testament. So that said, we're going to dive right into it. In the name of Jehovah Allah, most gracious, most merciful. The book of the wisdom of Yeshua ben Sirach, the son of Sirach, also known as Ecclesiasticus, chapter 37. Every friend saith, I am his friend also. But there is a friend which is only a friend in name. Is it not a grief unto death when a companion and a friend is turned to an enemy? O wicked imagination, whence camest thou in to cover the earth with deceit? There is a companion which rejoiceth in the prosperity of a friend, but in the time of trouble will he be against him. There is a companion which helpeth his friend for the belly, and taketh up the buckler against the enemy. Forget not thy friend in thy mind, and be not unmindful of him in thy riches. Every counselor extolleth counsel, but there is some that counseleth for himself. Beware of a counselor, and know before what need he hath, for he will counsel for himself, lest he cast a lot upon thee, and say unto thee, Thy way is good, and afterward he stand on the other side to see what shall befall thee. Consult not with one that suspecteth thee, and hide thy counsel from such as envy thee. Neither consult with a woman touching her of whom she is jealous, neither with a coward in matters of war, nor with a merchant concerning exchange, nor with a buyer of selling, nor with an envious man of thankfulness, nor with an unmerciful man touching kindness, nor with the slothful for any work, nor with an hireling for a year of finishing work, nor with an idle servant of much business. Hearken not unto these in any matter of counsel, but be continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Lord, whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry. And let the counsel of thine own heart stand, for there is no man more faithful unto thee than it. For a man's mind is sometimes wont to tell him more than 7 watchmen that sit above in an high tower. And above all this, Pray to the Most High that he will direct thy way in truth. Let reason go before every enterprise, and counsel before every action. The countenance is a sign of changing of the heart. Four manner of things appear, good and evil, life and death, but the tongue ruleth over them continually. There is one that is wise and teacheth many, and yet is unprofitable to himself. There is one that showeth wisdom in words, and is hated. He shall be destitute of all food. For grace is not given him from the Lord, because he is deprived of all wisdom. Another is wise to himself, and the fruits of understanding are commendable in his mouth. A wise man instructeth his people, and the fruits of his understanding fail not. A wise man shall be filled with blessing, and all they that see him shall count him happy. The days of the life of man may be numbered, but the days of Israel are innumerable. A wise man shall inherit glory among his people, and his name shall be perpetual. My son, prove thy soul in thy life, and see what is evil for it, and give not that unto it. For all things are not profitable for all men, neither hath every soul pleasure in every thing. Be not insatiable in any dainty thing, nor too greedy upon meats. For excess of meats bringeth sickness, and surfeiting will turn into choler. By surfeiting have many perished, but he that taketh heed prolongeth his life. Honor a physician with the honor due unto him, for the uses which ye may have of him. For Jehovah Allah hath created him. For of the Most High cometh healing, and he shall receive honor of the king. The skill of the physician shall lift up his head, and in the sight of great men he shall be in admiration. Nope, I went a little too far there. All right, you got carried away. So that was the book of Ecclesiasticus, the wisdom of Ben Sirach. That was chapter 37. We're going to get here into the first part here. It's talking about sometimes friends ain't really your friends. I think we've all run into that problem here or there. That's why you trust very few people, like with anything deep. It's good to make acquaintances and professional, acquaintances, but you want to keep your close ones close, and hopefully they feel as close to you as you do to them. The next part here, we get down, and it says, neither consult with a woman touching her of whom she is jealous. Just to clarify that, these are folks that are basically the opposite of what you're trying to accomplish here. You don't want to go to a dude who's totally scared of his own shadow and ask him for advice about how to march the troops into battle. The only advice you're going to get from him is like, don't do it, hide under a rock somewhere. If you're worried about, what kind of prices you should put on your product in order to make, a little bit of profit, but not totally rip people off, don't ask the guy you're going to be selling it to what you should put the price as, because the guy you're going to sell it to is going to tell you to give it the fuck away. He's going to tell you to give it away for free, and so on and so forth. That's what that means there. So that's that, and then we get to the wise men. There's one that is wise and teacheth many, and is yet unprofitable to himself. I don't know how many hear this, but I'm pretty unprofitable to myself. I got to admit it. But I do what I can to get by. But these are all wise people, but like they're all wise in their own way. Nobody's really perfect. You know what I mean? But they all have a blessing, and they all have wisdom to give back. So if you come across a wise man, wear out the feet of his doorsteps. And if he's one of the wise men that ain't making a lot of money, like maybe help him repair the doorstep you wore out too when you're done, because those things don't just come across for free. That said, let's go into the gospel reading. The gospel according to St. Mark is where we are. And when we last left off in chapter 3, a man came to him with a withered hand, and it was a Sabbath day, and it was illegal to heal. It was illegal to do any work on a Sabbath day back then. Jesus disregarded that and healed the man and made his hand normal again. And the lawmakers of that day didn't like that, even though they were hypocrites, which Jesus, calls them out on later on in these Gospels. But it was it was it was an amazing miracle that he did. And then they began to accuse him of being a devil worshiper or using the devil to cast out evil spirits, which Jesus basically, to paraphrase, just replied, well, if I'm using the devil to get rid of the evil, then I got the devil under control. What are you worried about? God has the devil under control. What are you worried about? What exactly are you accusing me of? Um, so that said, we're going to get into the fourth chapter here. Oh, and then they said his mother came out with his brothers and was looking for him. And then Jesus said, you know what? Anybody that does the will of God is my mother and is my brother and is my friend and is my sister. It's not necessarily about blood relation. Which, if we go back to Ecclesiastes real quick, it said the days of Israel are innumerable. And I iterated this a few days ago. We are Israel by extension when we believe and when we do the will of God, and our days will be innumerable. It's not necessarily a blood relation thing, despite what some may have you think. What flesh is flesh and what spirit is spirit. That said, we're going to jump into the Gospel of Mark. In the name of Jehovah Allah, most gracious, most merciful, the book of the Gospel according to St. Mark, chapter 4. And he began again to teach by the seaside, and there was gathered unto him a great multitude, so that he entered into a ship and sat in the sea. And the whole multitude was by the sea on the land. And he taught them many things by parables, and said unto them in his doctrine, Hearken. Behold, there went out a sower to sow. And it came to pass, as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and the fowls of the air came and devoured it up. And some fell on stony ground, where it had not much earth. And immediately it sprang up, because it had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, it was scorched, and because it had no root, it withered away. Some fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no fruit. And other fell on good ground, and did yield fruit that sprang up and increased, and brought forth, some 30, some 60, and some 100. And he said unto them, He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. And when he was alone, they that were about him with the 12 asked of him the parable. And he said unto them, Unto you it is given to know the mystery of the kingdom of Allah. But unto them that are without, all these things are done in parables, that seeing they may not see, and seeing they may see and not perceive, and hearing they may hear and not understand, lest at any time they should be converted, and their sins should be forgiven them. And he said unto them, Know ye not this parable? And how then will ye know all parables? The sower soweth the word. And these are they by the wayside, where the word was sown. But when they have heard, Satan cometh immediately, and taketh away the word that was sown in their hearts. And these are they likewise which are sown on stony ground, who, when they have heard the word, immediately receive it with gladness, and have no root in themselves, and so endure but for a time. Afterward, when affliction or persecution ariseth for the word's sake, immediately they are offended. And these are they which are sown among thorns. such as hear the word, and the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, and the lusts of other things, entering in, choke the word, and it becometh unfruitful. And these are they which are sown on good ground, such as hear the word, and receive it, and bring forth fruit, some 30-fold, some 60, and some 100-fold. And he said unto them, Is a candle brought to be put under a bushel, or under a bed, and not to be set on a candlestick? For there is nothing hid which shall not be manifested, neither was anything kept secret, but that it should come abroad. If any man have ears to hear, let him hear. And he said unto them, Take heed what ye hear. For what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you, and unto you that hear shall more be given. For he that hath, to him shall be given, and he that hath not, from him shall be taken even that which he hath. And he said, So is the kingdom of Allah, as if a man should cast seed into the ground, and should sleep, and rise day and night, and the seed should spring and grow up. He knoweth not how. For the earth bringeth forth fruit of herself, first the blade, then the ear, after that the corn, the full corn in the ear. But when the fruit is brought forth, immediately he putteth in the sickle, because the harvest is come. And he said, Whereunto shall we liken the kingdom of Allah? Or with what comparison shall we compare it? It is like a grain of mustard seed, which, when it is sown in the earth, is less than all the seeds that be in the earth. But when it is sown, it groweth up, and becometh greater than all herbs, and shooteth out great branches, so that the fowls of the air may lodge under the shadow of it. And with many such parables spake he the word unto them, as they were able to hear it. But without a parable spake he not unto them. And when they were alone, he expounded all things to his disciples. And the same day, when the even was come, he saith unto them, Let us pass over unto the other side. And when they had sent away the multitude, they took him even as he was in the ship. And there were also with him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And they awake him, and say unto him, Master, carest not thou that we perish? And he arose, and rebuked the wind, and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, Why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? And they feared exceedingly, and said one to another, What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? And that, once again, was the Gospel according to St. Mark, chapter 4. A very important parable brought in there, the very famous parable of the sower and what happens to people when they are introduced to faith. Even by extension, not just the gospel itself, but even miracles, supernatural occurrences. Um, some people have witnessed the paranormal firsthand, miracles, maybe even been plagued by a spirit of some kind, things of that nature. And some people take to it and deepen their faith because of it and become closer to God. Other people, for one reason or another, reject it. And, we can only just pray for them and hope that God continues to not give up on that seed and lets it grow. Plants are pretty resilient, even though they sometimes get choked or even dry up and wither. Bonsai have strong root, and sometimes even if that root is exposed to the elements, the plant can still be salvaged. It's true, it happens. If a bird comes and eats you up and shits you back out, hey, that's a little bit more fertilizer. You know what I mean? Bird shit is great for the plant. Um, True stuff. But that said, Yeah, so that's that. That's the Gospel of Mark for today. So you already got the warning. I don't really feel the need to I don't feel the need to reiterate it again, other than to just say that volcano will blow and the pedophiles are the problem. This is the most important issue on the table today. It's not the war on drugs. It's not the fucking insurance healthcare system. It's not what they're doing in Iran. It's what we're doing here in our own fucking backyard and allowing to happen. That's going to make or break our nation going into the future. Literally break it. So that said, let me give you the blessing and we can go about our day and we can ask God for counsel as to what we shall do. Yeah, actually, you know what? Before that reminds me. So, speaking of counsel, there was a part in the book of Ecclesiasticus about a counselor wondering, giving you bad advice. And I do want to make that clear. A lot of people do receive mental health psychiatric treatments, and it's hard to fucking trust any of these fucking frauds nowadays, even the well-intentioned ones. Their education is thrown off, usually because they don't even accept this Bible. They don't accept the wisdom God gave us. They don't accept any spirituality. They're taught to disregard it, other than the fact that you know, you should be spiritual. That's basically the extent that they'll give you when you go to see a psychologist nowadays or a counselor. You should be spiritual. Spirituality is a good thing, but that's about the extent of it. If you begin to tell them you've seen miracles, you're going to be labeled as delusional or a paranoid schizophrenic. If you tell them and begin to talk to them about your faith and how important it is to you, they're not really, most of the time, they're not even going to be qualified to talk back to you or even allowed in some situations, for fear of being sued for religious discrimination. Um, so that's the fact of the matter. And a lot of them are even more sinister than that, where they just want to get kickbacks from the pharmaceutical company. I've been to a place for seeking treatment when my fiance, Susan Musket, disappeared without a trace. That does a fucking number on one's head. So, not knowing if the thoughts I'm having are normal thoughts, I went to seek a little bit of counsel. And just telling them that my fiance was missing and I'm not sure, if some of these bizarre nightmare scenarios that I'm having and these nightmares that are going on are healthy or normal. They just took a family history of health and asked me if I had any allergies and then wrote me a fucking prescription. Didn't that was their answer. Write a prescription. Look, I can go out to the fucking corner and get any fucking drug I want to make me feel happy. I didn't need to fucking pay $100 and tax the healthcare system for some asshole to write me a script that don't even give me a good buzz. It's nonsense. They'll keep you coming back just because they want customers and kickbacks. So be careful about your psychologists. Ask them some questions, scrutinize them very well first. And then, if you feel that they are a good person, I suggest you go to a Christian based counseling organization. Or if you're a Muslim based or a Jewish based one. Go to a faith based counseling service. Trust me, you're going to get better care there, even if they aren't quite well informed in the faith or some of their beliefs are a little bit different than yours. The fact is they're believers and they're going to help you as long as they're not fucking conniving snakes. That's very important these days, um, especially the rate of people being hurt as children and just letting go unchecked. A lot of people seeking psychiatric services. A lot of fucking psychiatric services are conditioning our children to accept the abuse that they're going to get later on. Make no mistake about it. This place is fucked up. That said, let me give you the blessing and we can go about our day. Allah Yahweh bless thee and keep thee. Jehovah Allah cause the face to shine upon thee and be gracious toward thee. Hashem lift up the countenance upon thee and give you peace. Stay lit, friends. Naranja Arnos. Assalamu alaikum. Alaikum assalam. God bless you.